Welcome back to Real Talk 210. This episode is the second and final part of my interview with Tristan. If you haven't listened to the first part, you may want to go back and do that. Okay, and we're back. So I guess we'll just go ahead and jump into your athletics. So how old were you? What grade were you in when you got started with all that? Did you start with football? Did you start with track? Did you start with something else?
Well, in my charter school, I was kind of excited because there were so little people there. I was kind of athletic, and that was just from running. All we did was we did miles all the time. I hated running miles, but I could do it. And I could do push-ups more than the average kid there because it was just such a small population of students. And I did ROTC there as well. So when I went back to public school, the junior high didn't have ROTC, but the high school did. So my plan was going into high school, I was going to do ROTC and then even possibly cheerleading. I didn't have football or track on the brain at all because it was just called athletics. It wasn't called sports, football, track. It wasn't anything like that. It was just athletics in junior high. And that basically meant you played sports. You were a football player if you were in athletics, or you just be in PE. PE is just the class. But athletics means you played football in junior high. So,
wait a minute. So in junior high, are you saying that if you were in athletics, then you played all of the sports?
You got to choose, but yes, if you were in athletics, you played football, at least. And then possibly did track, possibly did other things. But if you were in athletics, you played football in junior high. Well, I got there the second semester, so I didn't get to play football. It was just off-season training, preparing for freshman football. But at the time, I wasn't going to play freshman football. I was going to do ROTC. And up until the literal week before freshman year started, I went up to the school with my mom and I was changing ROTC to football. And they're like, why? I was just I just don't want to do ROTC. I don't want to shave my head anymore. Ever since I was little, I just shaved my head constantly because I always wanted haircuts, but my family couldn't afford it. Right. So my dad would literally just take a 2-buzzer to my head and just shave my head with a 2 or 3. So I always had a short buzz cut hair. Eventually, I was just I'm tired of it. I was I want to grow my hair out. So I was I'm going to do football instead. And if I don't like it after freshman year, I'm going to quit. I was but I'm going to finish freshman year. And they're okay, whatever. And freshman year, football was probably my number one anxiety.
Yeah.
Just because everybody that was there that were going to play, they were recommended by the junior high coaches. Yeah. And almost everybody played all the way through junior high. So they already knew half the plays that the high school did, all the drills they did, everything they ran. And I didn't. I was the new kid. And I was also really scrawny. I was really small freshman year. Pretty much all the way up until junior year is when I started getting a little bit more muscle on me. And then even up my senior year out, there was sophomores, freshmen, and even including seniors on varsity this year, I was still the lightest technically and the smallest. Even though I'm 5'11", I was the lightest. That being said, I also lift twice my body weight.
Wow.
So I wasn't the weakest, but if you look at them, the charts, I'm definitely not anywhere near the top. But freshman year, I hated going to 8th period football. I knew I was going to have to run drills I didn't know, run plays I didn't know. It was just a major anxiety. And I really wanted to quit, but my dad was looking at me. He's I'm going to tell you what my dad told me. He's you're going to finish. He's I don't care if you finish the year or you start another year. If you start a year, you're going to finish it. So he's you're going to finish football this year. And the first game came around in the year. Well, actually, not even the pre-game, the scrimmage. It was Johnson. My coach put me in, and I had no idea what I was doing on defense. He was where have you been in the past month? I was I've been here. I just don't know anything. He took me out, and the first game came up against Madison High School, and the fourth quarter rolled around, and they were putting all the freshmen in who didn't play, and my coach looked at me. He goes, Ratliff, have you played? I was no, sir. He's why not? I was I don't know the plays. He goes, I thought he was going to be livid at me. He was just he just looked at me, and he said, learn the plays. I'll put you in next week. Thanks, coach. And I tried my best to learn it. I started writing stuff down. I knew I wasn't going to be an all-star player just because of my size, and I'm not a favorite. But, at the end of that freshman season, they told freshman football players, they're if you're not running track, congratulations, you're on B-team track. They said, you're going to be running track to stay in shape for football.
Wow.
And they said, it does not matter who you are, if you're competing or not, you're going to be out there practicing with the track team. And I realized really quickly that if you pole vault, you don't have to run.
Oh.
Yeah, they made everybody work out with the sprinters. Unless you were a big boy, you were a thrower. And I saw 1 or 2 pole vaulters. And they weren't running. And I was I wonder. And they didn't look really good. And the only reason I kind of knew what good was and wasn't was because my dad did pole vault in high school. And my grandpa did pole vault in high school. And I never wanted to do it because I never wanted to live in that shadow, quote unquote.
Right.
But even from when I was really young, my dad was talking to me if I wanted to start, he would find his old private coach and they would start me. But they're oh, you have to be 10 to start. and I was only like 8 or 9, so I never got to do it. And I kind of put the thought like aside until I got to high school, and then I saw them and what they were doing. I was like, I'm going to go try to do this. And I caught on really fast, insanely fast. Like my dad, he pole vaulted, I think, starting in 7th grade, and he didn't clear a bar until he was a freshman.
Wow.
And my freshman year, I started competing at the freshman level, clearing 9 feet the 3rd week.
Wow.
And then after that, I jumped JV, and I was clearing 10.6 by the end of my freshman year, which is the first time I've ever pole vaulted.
Wow.
Without any private coaching. And literally, if not teaching myself, my dad helped me out. Just like, I try not to attribute a lot of my success to him because he gives him a big head. But he was a big part of like me getting the premise of how to do it. And even coming to my meets, I would call him in between jumps, which is completely against the rules. But I would call him in between jumps and be like, okay, so how do I do this? Like, how do I adjust for this jump? Like, if I'm too tired, should I move my standards back and forth? And like, where do I come in at? Like, I would just call him and ask for help because I don't have a private coach. Everybody I compete with has a private coach.
Wow.
Almost everybody. If not, their high school coach used to be a private coach or they know the jump. I don't have a private coach. I don't even have a coach at my school who knows pole vault. And that's why I told them, like, okay, this day we're going to lift, this day we're going to run. And I was like, Coach, since I'm pole vaulting, do I have to do any of this? And he goes, no. He's like, I'm not even going to lie to you. I'm not going to pretend I know your event. If you need help, I'm here. But if you know the lifts you're supposed to be doing, if you know the exercises you're supposed to be doing, do them. And as long as you're competing well, you're placing, I don't care what you do, just stay in shape. So I would just do what I've always done. I would practice how I practice, and that I kind of fell in love with it after freshman year. And then not as much as football. I loved football.
Yeah.
Once I got out of the anxiety portion of it. And then once I started learning stuff, I realized I actually really did enjoy football, which was odd because everyone always told me I would never be good. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm not the best football player out there. I wasn't a starter this year. I was second string, but I played like more than most people think, which is ironic. But at the end of freshman year, going into sophomore year, after track season, I realized that I wanted to do both of these, which was difficult because my freshman year, I didn't do theater at all. Besides tech, which was just helping build sets for the show. And that hurt because in 8th grade, I loved doing theater.
Wow, wait a minute. So how early did you start doing theater?
Oh, I mean, I've been doing anything theater since I was like 10 or 11. Like,
wow. So like maybe, what is that, 5th or 6th grade?
Yeah, probably because I did it for my church all the time. And then I did choir for my church growing up too. And when I was homeschooled even, my mom, like this homeschool organization, they had classes. And my mom was the co-director for theater, so I was kind of forced to do it because I was one of the older kids. And eventually, as a 7th and 8th grader, I got bumped up to perform with the high school students because they realized there's no one in your age bracket that like you can act with without you looking a lot older or without you performing a lot older and more well-connected. So they bumped me up to high school theater in the homeschooling bracket. But yeah, like I said, after my freshman year, I really wanted to do theater. So I was like, how am I going to juggle football, theater, and track? Because my older brother did football and theater, and his senior year, he quit football for theater. So I thought eventually I was going to have to make the decision, and I didn't want to.
Right.
And that kind of just led me to going into my sophomore year being pressured about it. But my sophomore year, I wasn't put in like the varsity theater. It's called theater production. And I wasn't put in that class because I didn't audition for it. But I did work with the high school theater director over the summer. So he knew what I could do. But he put me in Tech 1, which was basically just the class that everyone went to if they wanted an art credit but didn't want to do any work. So the first day of class, he was like, I need someone I can trust. Tristan, come here. And I was like, what's up? He's like, I need you to run to do this. I need you to do this. And like when main stage rolled around, our main performance of the year, he was like, he wants to help build the set. And no one wanted to do anything. I was like, I'll go build the set. So almost every day I built sophomore year show. I built most of the set for that.
Wow.
And then eventually I was like, I don't want to just be crew like for construction. Like what else can I do? He's like, well, I was supposed to have someone wear spotlight for the show, but I don't really trust them as much as you. So you're going to wear spotlight. I was like, okay, it's something. And we did a Seussical the musical that year, and that such an entertaining show. Like it was so, I don't know how to it was very expressive because it was based off Horton Hears a Who. It was very, bright colors, wacky setting, and like
it was fun. Yeah,
and the fact that I got built to build the set and then know everybody like who was performing, it was like you said, it was fun.
So when did you get back into performing? Like, were you always behind the scenes? Like, when did you start acting? Or did you start acting?
I started acting technically my junior year. because I was in theater production that year. I auditioned for it. And to audition to get in the class, you need to either have 2 contrasting monologues or a monologue and a song. And I was kind of shoo-in to get into the class anyways, just because they didn't have a lot of guys. But once I got into the class, we have main stage, which is at the first semester. But also we work on IEs, which stands for independent events, and that's where we go to the convention in Dallas every year with every other school in Texas. And it turns out to be around 8,000 kids that go in 277 schools.
Wow.
And we all compete in our individual events, and mine was group acting because they didn't know where else to put me. So my group acting, my junior year, I forget what the show was called. It was just a silly little comedic scene where I'm eating with both my grandparents, like one set of grandparents over here, one set of grandparents over there. And I'm leaving to get a job, and they want to introduce me to this girl to try to get me to stay. It was just a little silly comedic act, but we ended up qualifying for nationals.
Wow.
Which I thought was really interesting, I was proud of it, even though we all didn't like the scene because we thought it was really awkward, not funny. Like, it wasn't like comically funny, it was awkwardly funny.
Oh dear. But
the judges were laughing, and like everybody else in the room was laughing, so we thought we did decent. We didn't think we qualified though, and then we got our scores, and the judges scored them 20 points. So like 20 is a perfect score. Right. And then one's obviously you did shit. But we got our scores back on the bus, and we heard that another group qualified later that night. And they called them one of my roommates, and they're like, "No, we qualified." It was the best acting scene we had, like by far. So we all knew they were going to qualify. And we were like, "Oh, hey, by the way, y'all qualified too." And I was like, "What?" I grabbed the phone. I was like, "No, we didn't." They're like, "Check the website. They posted national qualifiers." So we qualified for nationals.
Whoa.
We had 6 IEs, and we qualified 5 out of 6 of our IEs, and only 10 schools out of the 277 did that.
Wow.
And we were one of them. And only one school qualified all 6. So I was really happy about that. That's when I started wanting to get back into acting. And also main stage that year, we did Annie. And I was triple casted for that. I played 3 different roles.
You played 3 roles in the same play.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Also, but wait a minute. So let's focus back on nationals. Where did that happen?
It happens in Nebraska, I'm pretty sure. That being said, we don't get to compete at nationals because it's so expensive to go.
Oh,
it costs about $1,200 per person.
Whoa.
And there was easily 6 people in my group. So overall, we nationally qualified probably about almost 20 people because 5 out of 6 of our groups.
Whoa.
Yeah, so it would have been a lot of money to go.
But even Steele, I mean, Steele's got a lot of money. They wouldn't shell out for that?
Not for that many people. This year, we did. Because this year it was at a different location. Last year it was at the convention center in Dallas. This year it was at the Gaylord in Dallas. And it was a very, very pretty location, but the judges were a lot more strict this year. Last year they were really strict on musicals and more lenient on acting. This year they were really strict on acting groups. So this year as a senior I actually did not qualify nationally. Oh. Which was a little disappointing because I thought my scene was a little bit better put together. We had a dramatic scene. But that being said, we qualified both of our musical groups, which is it was group musical, and they did the Ballad of Sarah Berry from 35mm. And then I cannot remember our solo musical song, but she's a very good friend of mine. They're all friends of mine. They both killed it, and they both qualified for nationals. And since it was only 2 groups out of the 6 this time, they did fundraising. They managed to get all the money to send the majority of the people who qualified to go. And they both deserve to go. Like the group musical is in my heart just because they choreographed everything themselves. And it's so well put together. Like, it's, in my opinion, it's Broadway level worthy. Just that one scene, that one song. Wow. And then the soloist is a really good friend of mine. I've known her since 7th grade, and she vocally deserves to go to nationals anyway. So I'm not like, I guess, salty or upset at all that I didn't qualify, because I'm glad that people I'm close with did. Right. It is part of like performing in general. Like, I performed my heart out. I was the only senior in my group that I remember. So like, it was a little bit more nostalgic for me going to convention for the last time and, you know, competing and then not qualifying. But I got to, like, you know, meet a lot of new people, you know, like have a lot more experiences in Dallas one last time, competing with people I hold dear to my heart that's in theater. And I feel like that's going to be really nostalgic leaving. But thankfully I'll be, you know, continuing my theater career in college as well.
Okay, so one thing I wanted to ask you about was, is it difficult or awkward being both an athlete and a theater kid? Do the athletes give you beef for being a theater kid, or is that something from the 80s and 90s that doesn't really apply anymore?
I mean, it definitely did happen ever so often. Like, it was actually more the coaches than the other kids. I didn't have a lot of close friends on the football team. I had like 3 or 4 people I really like trusted. Everybody else just kind of knew of me. But I wasn't a starter, so everybody thought I was bad. I go to Steele, and we're like, I wouldn't say we're the best in Texas, but we're one of the top tier teams in Texas, at least in 6A Division 2. So I wasn't a starter. Nobody really knew of me, but the coaches knew me because of track, because I did well in track. They would see me wearing the musical shirt, and they'd be like, are you in that? I'd be like, yeah, I work tech, or yeah, I'm acting in it. And they would just kind of like smirk and give me a little, hard time for it.
Right.
But it wasn't nearly as bad as like, High School Musical made it out to be. Like, you had to choose between the two. Like, it was just kind of like silly, like, oh, that's cute, ha ha, and laughed.
Right. So it wasn't like hardcore bullying or anything
no,
that you had to deal with.
It was just teasing. Yeah.
Well, that's great, man. That's great. So let's move it forward to college. You're getting ready to start college in the fall, I guess. And you, just a day or two ago, I think, right? A couple days ago, you signed on with a college. What happened there?
I had a ceremonial signing, and out of the colleges I'm choosing from, I ceremonially signed with Graceland University in Lamoni, Iowa. They're offering me a pretty decent track scholarship, and I haven't got the official offer yet, but as soon as it comes in, I'll give them like the yes or no. I have a couple offers for track because I did go to regionals this year.
Nice.
It goes districts, area regionals, and only top 4 make it to make it out. So out of district, I had to place top 4, I placed 3rd. And then area, I had to place top 4, I placed 3rd. And then at regionals, I didn't do so hot for a number of reasons. But I jumped 14 feet, which is...
Whoa!
That's...
How is that not so hot? You jumped 14 feet in the air. That's crazy.
In other states, yes. But because we're in Texas and the competition is so big, and like I said, everybody I jumped with had private coaching. So it is very competitive in the state of Texas.
So, like, what did the best student jump this year?
Well, at majority of my events, my meets, I would place 3rd or 2nd because I jump about 13 feet 6 inches consistently.
Wow.
I know a lot of people who can jump 15 feet 6 inches, but they cannot hit it consistently. So it's a big consistency thing.
Right.
So I can hit 13.6 consistently. I placed anywhere between 5th place because I jumped 13.6 or 1st place because I jumped 13.6. It depends on the meet. It depends on who's going there.
Right.
That being said, there's a jumper from Brennan. I cannot remember his name to save my life right now. But Brennan High School, he jumped easily 16 feet 1 inch, and I'm pretty sure he made it out of regionals. Only top 2 make it out of regionals.
Wow. But
he's probably going to state. He probably jumps better than I did. I tied 9th at regionals with 3 other people. Like I said, 14 is a mediocre jump in my opinion.
Oh my God.
I should have been at any other meet. It would have been a really decent jump. But because it was regionals, they had to set the bar a little bit higher. So 14 feet was pretty mediocre. That being said, in other states like Iowa or Oklahoma or Kansas, 14 feet would actually place very well in college. So at least coming in. In all honesty, at regionals, I should have jumped 14.6. Just because I was on top of it and I came down on top of it. My standards were messed up, which is kind of, I'm sure, like Japanese to you. But going into college with a 14 jump, D1, it's pretty bad. But I'm going to an NAIA school, which is a private conference. So it's actually fairly decent for their like collegiate level. So I have a handful of offers, which is nice. They're not making it dirt cheap, but it's helping out a lot. And then I also have a Division II school who's looking at me. And I haven't officially signed to any one place, but like I said, my number one choice right now is Graceland University. I'm heavily looking forward to hopefully competing for them. And then, pursuing my pole vault career because they have a very good pole vault program, which not a lot of people do unless you're Division I. So like going into college, I'm going to be hopefully jumping higher with better equipment because that was a big issue for me because I didn't go to a private coach. I didn't have the poles I needed to jump higher. So that being said, going to the college level and having the funding and the equipment and the indoor facilities, because they have an indoor facility as well, to practice not only year round, but to more consistently practice with better equipment would hopefully help my form, my technique. And then even potentially playing football because it is a smaller school. The coach already told me that I'd probably have a pretty decent chance of walking on. And even if I did get hurt, I would not have my scholarship pooled. Because football is a passion of mine, I might try to pursue it. Just, to have fun, to say I did it in college at least, for a year or two before I either focus on track or, studies or whatever else I have to do.
Yeah. To be able to say you played college ball is a pretty big claim to fame, I would say.
Yeah, definitely.
So that's cool. Cool. Now, what about, how are you going to balance that? Are you still going to continue with theater as well in college?
As of right now, I'm trying to find a school that has a BA in visual media arts. Mm-hmm. And then just participate in the theater program. That being said, if I don't go to a school that has said major, I more than likely will be just majoring in theater. And I know that sounds kind of silly, but first of all, athletes in school have a lot of pressure on them athletically. I know a lot of D1 schools, if you try to major in anything like too difficult, their coaches will kind of try to not like persuade you, but kind of like put it in your mind that maybe you shouldn't try to have such a hard major. Because, the harder your major, the more time you spend on studying, which means less time on athletics, right, which is what you're getting paid to go to college for.
Right.
So not only would it be easier to say major in theater to do that, but also if I don't go into marketing for media, or if I don't, do film in the future like I kind of want to, right, my fallback is to be a high school theater director. And even though that obviously is not like the best paying job in the world, I love my high school theater director. I doubt he's listening, but if Mr. Wright ever hears this.
Well,
Wright,
you know what you can do? You can tell Mr. Wright about this podcast, and maybe I will have more than 7 listeners. That would be terrific. Mr. Wright, big shout out to you for listening, which I'm sure you will do at some point.
But yeah, I love him. Like he was brand new my freshman year, so we're his graduating senior class. His daughter's a really good close friend of mine too. She's graduating with us, and not only him, but the directors that were at Steele, that when my brothers went to Steele, like in 2009 and 2010, Mr. Sanchez and Mr. A, like they all had like a very big impact on my life and how I want to affect people. And like, yes, I love performing, but I also would love to affect kids and like how they grow up and be there for them, not only as like, a parental like person, but also as a, a mentor in any way. And like I said, I really genuinely do love theater. And even if I don't get to perform for the rest of my life, I would love to be a part of something artistically like that, letting people express their own emotions through theater or art or music or in any way that I could possibly do that. And I just feel like even though theater director of a high school wouldn't be my dream job, it's a job I would be happy with living. So I'm not like settling for, a cubicle office or something like that. Because that's just not how my mind works. As a job to provide money, yes, but my end goal in life is to be happy with what I'm doing. So
yes,
I could be completely content for the rest of my life being a high school theater director if, say, I don't work in film, film media marketing.
So I have 2 questions, and I think that we're going to wrap it up after these 2 questions, and hopefully you can help me remember these 2 questions. It is getting late. All right, so one question is I want to delve more into, so high school theater director is kind of like your very satisfying fallback option, but I want to explore more specifically, I want to get greater detail on what your kind of your number one, your dream job that you're going to try to go for, maybe what that is. And then the second piece is actually something you just said about acting, which I've heard a lot before, and I'm sure listeners have kind of heard these phrases thrown around a lot before, but the idea of acting as a means to express your emotions when in fact it seems like you're inhabiting another character with somebody else's motivations, someone else's experiences, and someone else's emotions. And man, I really should save this, but let's just go for it. So speak to that.
All right, I'm gonna answer the latter first because that was a longer one, so it's probably gonna be harder to remember. Okay. In my personal experience, when I performed, even if I'm not personifying myself, it's not so much about expressing yourself artistically as expressing the piece. So this year for Senior Showcase, I will be performing a dramatic monologue, which is actually a slam poem written by Kevin Cantor. And it's very, very emotional because it's going to be in our black box. And a black box theater is a small, generally small room, all black. And it can be literally anything you want it to be. The audience is like very close, like across the table, like you and I would be right now. And it's just you can see people's expressions, because yes, there are lights in the black box, but it's very one-on-one almost, because everyone can see you, your expression. There's no mics because you're so close to everybody. And I can just imagine now doing this, because I've done it for certain specific people, for them to give me feedback. The way I can make someone feel by expressing myself through the words of another is just, I can't even find words to express how that feels. The fact that I can make you laugh or cry based on how I'm performing is like unimaginable. Like, just the way it makes me feel, to know that I can make you feel something is just, I can't even find words for it. Like, I know I've said that 4 times, but
right, yeah. So that's, I mean, I guess it's like the definition of art, really. Right? Just, like, whether it's through painting or song or acting or whatever it may be, like conveying emotion, getting your audience to feel what you feel, or feel anything, really, for that matter. I mean, ideally, you want to convey what you are feeling, but, you know, people may have different responses, I guess. But so you've got so much passion for football, for the pole vaulting, for acting. But I think that you told me once, transitioning into the other of the 2 questions, I think you told me once that, like, the main thing that you want to do is like video editing / special effects. Is that correct?
Yes and no. I've always wanted to either direct or perform in film. Like, I've always wanted to be an actor. But I've always thought that the more realistic side of that was to be behind the scenes, because all great actors are hard to come by, let alone the chance that you're going to be cast for something, a major film. My best example I could think of is Tom Holland, Spider-Man, the newest Spider-Man. The fact that he was casted so young to play such a young character, like, that's like my dream, like, especially Spider-Man, because growing up, that was one of my favorite characters. Like,
I could actually see you as Spider-Man. I mean, I've never even seen you act before, but, like, I just feel like my facial hair is too much, but just even Stan Lee, like, commented, he was like, Tom Holland is the perfect actor for Spider-Man. He's same height, same build that I imagined, and, like, that's just, with my luck, I feel like I would never be cast for something like that. That being said, I am a theater nut, so I've always wanted to be on Broadway, but I also don't have as strong vocals as most Broadway actors. So realistically, growing up filming, making my own little home videos that I can share with the world, that was my way to express my acting / my skills behind the scenes on the computer, you know, to do what I can to express myself through acting, and also writing, because I do write. I used to screenwrite my own little shorts, funny skits, and do stuff similar to that, where, like, I guess one of my major idols, if I had to idolize a couple people to be a basic theater nut, Lin-Manuel Miranda, the writer, composer, and actor of Hamilton the musical, also, you know, In the Heights and 21 Jump Street. Everything he does is so well thought out and planned and expressed through theater or music or writing, like, just the way that he carries himself. That made me want to help pursue my dream, because it's very similar as what he's doing. And, like, I don't come from the same background as him, obviously. Like, he's Puerto Rican. He, you know, comes from lower income from what I remember families. But at the same time, like, just the passion he has for people and art is insane. And that's what I want to do. I want to pursue that for as long as I can, while I can, because we only get one life. So my dream is, yes, to work with film, media, anything artistically. But whatever I end up doing, whether it be acting or, you know, set design or anything I can think of that can contribute to art, I'll be happy with my life. That sounds great. It sounds like you're set up to do that. And so it sounds like you're not like 100% specific, but that's okay. You're 18 years old. And it sounds like for someone that's 18, or even really for someone that's much older than that, you've got a pretty clear vision. But it sounds like you're remaining flexible. You enjoy acting. You're interested in directing. You also have a variety of behind-the-scenes skills, and pretty much any of that is kind of open game right now in terms of a career down the road. I
mean, yes and no. I mean,
okay, yeah, clarify.
I feel like I'm more educated in the behind-the-scenes portion, but at the same time, I definitely, any part of that type of genre of work I could do, I would be happy to, like, learn and keep progressing towards to get better to what I need to do, what I need to accomplish to get to where I want to be. So yes, I feel like I'm well prepared. But that being said, there's, like I mentioned earlier, there's always going to be someone more prepared. There's always going to be someone better.
Right.
You got to consistently work. One thing football taught me is if you're not working to get harder, you're getting worse. Mm-hmm. So I'm taking the stuff I'm learning from sports to apply that to my life outside and artistically speaking. Like if I'm not rehearsing, if I'm not learning my lines, if I'm not doing what I can artistically, like writing down in my notebook ideas for skits or something. If I'm not consistently improving, I'm probably losing out to someone else. And even though, everyone wants to help project artistically, it's a dog-eat-dog world, like in any business,
right.
Like any career. So if I'm not just doing all that I can personally to become what I want to, then I don't really see the point of even trying. Like if I don't give it my all, I guess what I'm trying to say is I'd rather give it my all and fail than wonder what happened if I didn't.
Man, that is sage advice. That's really sage advice. I could have used that about 20 years ago. Let's see. I do want to jump back to something that you said that I thought was interesting. You were talking about acting and how you love acting, and you brought up Spider-Man, and then you said that with your luck, you probably would not get cast into that role. But I want to examine that statement for a minute because, I don't know, your luck doesn't look so bad to me. You're in the football team. You're going to regionals with the pole vaulting. You're involved with the theater. We didn't really talk about your academics, but I assume to be involved in all those other areas, you must be at least doing pretty good academically. That's not someone with bad luck. You know what I mean? So
I suppose not. I always feel like I'm in the wrong place at the wrong time for certain scenarios. But at the same time, I feel like that all that you just mentioned isn't so much as luck as just dedication. Because I easily could have quit football when I was anxiety-driven freshman year. I could have not done theater because I didn't get a role, or I could have not done track because I couldn't learn it fast enough, even though in hindsight, I learned it faster than almost anyone that I know personally. So like it's not so much luck for those areas as much as I dedicated myself to what I love to do. And people are telling me like the odds of you getting a role or the odds of you doing this in your life is just almost completely idiotic. And I'm just like, well, if I take the dedication from all the other parts of my life and I put it towards what I want to do when I'm older, I guess. I mean, I'm almost 19 now. Mm-hmm. So if I put that dedication towards my dream job and I still fail, I would still rather fail knowing that I try to do what I love and then have a fallback that I'm content with, like, being a high school theater director, or going to, a cubicle job every day for the next 35 years, possibly retiring with a pension, like...
If you're lucky.
If I'm lucky, yeah. I don't want to live in a life where I live and say, what if? There's a quote that says, that I used to think of all the time before I compete. It was, I failed is 10 times more of a man than what if, because what if never even went to the arena. So I try to live my life by more of those rules and try to just live my life like I'm going to the arena every day.
That's inspiring. All right. Well, Tristan, I don't think I sort of feel like I'm forgetting something, but I can't think of what that would possibly be. So congratulations on all of your millions of successes, and wish you many more. Thanks for dropping in on the podcast. You've been an awesome guest. All of our recording that we've done today is probably at least 2 episodes worth.
Awesome.
So congratulations. You're a mini-series.
Great.
And, I do have a question. You can say no, but do you want to favor our audience with a song? Or not an entire song, but maybe like a snippet of a song? Now, I have to let you know that I've never recorded or edited singing. So I don't know how that's going to pan out. If it doesn't pan out great, I can always cut it from the show. And I know you said like you can sing, but it's not necessarily your strongest piece. So it's up to you. It's totally up to you.
I really would. It's been a long day and my voice is probably not up for it.
Okay.
That being said, if this gets a very good response, if you get a lot of good reports back on this podcast, I'll come back and serenade everybody. How about that?
That would be amazing. So you heard them, everybody, all 7 people listening. We need feedback, okay? We need subscriptions, we need comments, and then we're going to have Tristan back here, and he'll do a song for you. All right, with all that said, I think that we are finally going to wrap it up here. Thanks for tuning in to Real Talk 210. I'm your host, Jason, and this has been my guest, Tristan. Bye-bye.